Parashakya Namaha, Om Parashakya Namaha, Om Parashakya Namaha. Namo Guru Be, Namo Deva Be, Namo Dakini Be. May I achieve total liberation for the benefit of all beings. May all my friends and all my enemies achieve total liberation for the benefit of all beings. Om Ahum, Om Ahum, Om Ahum. Old friends and relatives will separate. Positions gained with exertion will be left behind. Consciousness, the guest, will leave the guest house of the body. To let go of this life is the practice of a bodhisattva. This is Darren Littlejohn. Welcome to episode 46, the 12-Step Buddhist Podcast. Compassionate Recovery and the 37 Practices of the Bodhisattva, Part 4. Old friends and relatives will separate. Possessions gained with exertion will be left behind. Speaking to the impermanence that the Buddha taught of, one of the main practices of mindfulness, mindfulness of impermanence, mindfulness of the suffering of samsara, the endless cycle. Just reminding us that everybody we know 100 years from now will be gone, if not sooner. We just lost one, a girl that used to come to my groups. Her name was Chris, with a K. She was a nice person, cute, in her 20s, I think, maybe early 30s at the time. I think meth was her thing. I can't remember exactly. I'm pretty sure it was meth. I know she was on the street. I know she was hardcore. And she was sober, like so many people who come into the rooms with the story. It's like welcome home, you know. And she used to listen intently to what we were talking about and participate and had questions and did the meditations. And then one day she was gone. And I had asked Eric, the guy that she had been seeing at the time, who was sober a couple of years at the time, and he had lost touch with her, but over the years, I asked about her here and there, and she was not able to participate in recovery, not able to find what we might call a sober solution. I felt bad for Eric because his son had just committed suicide this past summer, I think, and he was just a lovely person, just a good person, and just a decent human being, you know. And he always supported me, and when I was going through difficulties, and you know, hadn't stayed sober himself, but I didn't really ever feel like, you know, I can't tell anybody what to do or what they should do. You know, I just still love them. I don't really chase after people and ask them, hey, are you going to get sober again? I mean, I used to do that in the early decades of sobriety, but it's not my thing. Not everybody is the same kind of addict, you know. And not everybody needs to do the exact same thing. That said, we do have to be really careful for our tricky thinking and our self-deception. But old friends such as her, old friends such as everyone, all your relatives, everybody that you cling to, everybody that you hold so close to you, will separate. We will all separate from each other. That's the truth. So let's just take that into consideration. Let's understand the meaning and the value and the importance of the teaching. The teaching says question appearances. Look for reality. The reality is impermanence. Does it mean we don't love, that we don't attach, that we don't help each other out? Don't be dumb. Of course not. It means that we look at everything with the wisdom eye of the teaching, and with the heart of wisdom and compassion, knowing that everything is empty, knowing that absolute compassion is the bliss of reality, knowing it, or at least considering it, Possessions gained with exertion will be left behind. Well, can't take it with you. Yet we cling. Yet we hoard. Having lost everything that I own, or having, let's just say, I don't know if I lost it. It didn't go up in a fire. Nobody stole it. I left things behind. I put things in storage and didn't get them. I was preoccupied with what can only be described as a state of traumatic hyperarousal, whether it was in 94 or 2014. The brain still works as the brain still works. Trauma has no timeline. The traumatic experience is completely unaware of time and date and space. Just, this feels as if it's happening now. So those things that I left behind in that state of trauma, when I had first relapsed with 10 years sober, I just was in a state of panic. Left everything. Had a backpack. Went from Dallas, Texas to Summit County, Colorado with a backpack. Never went back. I had friends and relatives of friends go into the house and take what they wanted. And yeah. So I've felt that experience of things. Everything that you work, all the effort that you put into accumulating things, whether it's the latest electronic, you just look at your pile, look at your box of old electronics, and how many things you treasured and you had to have, and it was just, all that. At least if you're like me, I've had those boxes all my life, just boxes of things, cords and fitting, adapters rather, and looking at these old things. Wow, they're nothing now. They have no use or value anymore. So that's the teaching of impermanence. Even consciousness, the guest. Consciousness, that's interesting, the guest. I'm not really sure how to interpret that. The guest will leave the guest house. Consciousness, it's a guest. Consciousness is a guest of the body. It's an interesting way of looking at it. I am myself. I am my name. I am my things. I am my job, my title, my role, my relationships, my children, my spouse. I am my sobriety. I am my identity. I am my religion. I am my art, my poetry. Consciousness will leave the guest house of the body. We all know it. Nobody, there are psychological theories. I'm pretty sure it was Freud. Someone can correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure it was Freud that basically said everybody just lives with the fear of death, and then we have that anxiety. We're just basically going through life like dealing with the anxiety of the fear of death, And, I was meditating a few moments before starting the podcast, and I felt my heart beat in the vast expanse of primordial emptiness. Boom, boom, boom. I was like, whoa, man, my heart is beating so strong. I don't feel like I'm going to die today. I'm not wishing for death today. I'm not struggling to avoid death today. I was just sitting here with a straight back. I scrubbed my floors, vacuumed everything, made things neat and nice. I'm working on books. I've got deadlines. Going to yoga in a little bit. I thought I'd sit like I do. I'm very grateful, I want to say. I'm very grateful that I have an oak table. And at my oak table, I have my cast iron teapot. I haven't used it yet. I've had it for a few months. 2 candles from the Food for Less, 2 Jesus candles. I live near Mexico, so it's like there's a lot of that kind of, I love all that stuff. And my yoga books, my Dzogchen books, my journal for a year to live. I'm doing the year to live up with Noah Levine up there in LA, going up there once a month. Trying to give that relationship a different perspective. Trying to get into some healing and some compassion. I just completed 6 weeks of the compassion cultivation training through Stanford Medical School. They've got some teachers here in San Diego. I'm doing that course. I'm doing another course with them online. I think it's March 22nd. It's a 4-hour course. 2 hours one week and 2 hours the next on forgiveness with Margaret Cullen. I have to look her up, but I was referred to her as the teacher to take. So I'm taking that. Got the compassion cultivation training. And I'll talk more about that later as we go. But it is an interesting process to have a totally secular version of Buddhist teachings without mentioning Buddha pretty much ever. All backed by neuroscience, all backed by research and experimentation as to the right ways to do practice and the things that change as the result and the benefits and the right timing of it and the way to space it out and the order of things. And this is all proprietary, kind of set up by Stanford's research Center for Compassion and Altruism Research, which was set up with Thupten Jinpa, I believe, who was the Dalai Lama's chief translator since 1985, and a PhD from Oxford, and a geshe, the highest honor, the highest scholarship in the Madhyamika tradition of His Holiness Dalai Lama. Anyways, so that's all, the science of compassion is all happening, and how to do it, and not just, with a Buddhist teacher, but just with a nurse. It's quite lovely. These beautiful people that care for others while they die and are sick. I love nurses. Please, if you're a nurse and you're single, I want to marry a nurse. I really do. I love nurses. But healthcare people, taking care of others. So consciousness will leave the body, everybody. Consciousness will leave the body. I like to think, hey, I'm impermanent. I am impermanent. I, as I know myself, am impermanent. In this particular energetic configuration, this manifestation of karma, this result of causes and conditions, of infinite streams of chains of microfiber chains of A, B, C, D, ... connect the karmic dots, going to infinity with infinite points, coming from infinity with infinite points, all manifesting in this body of light. Karmically speaking, this particular energetic representation is unique and temporary. Hey, live with that knowledge next time you want to be a dick. This is what I tell myself, Live with that knowledge when I cling to things. Live with that knowledge as I, go walk through life in a day of sobriety, Having the awareness that consciousness is the guest and will check out. Checkout time is, TBA. TBA. We don't know when, my teacher would always say. We don't know when. So, how do you want to live? 37 practices of the Bodhisattva. To let go of this life is the practice of a Bodhisattva. Wow. How do we let go? We're not talking about jumping off a bridge. I'm talking about this, it's like meditation. I've been doing mindfulness practice for, I don't know, it's 80 something, late 80s or something, 88, I don't know. And pretty continuously, but doing mindfulness practice for a long time. The practice as Joko Beck used to teach it to me was the Zen practice. Every time a return to present moment awareness. Every time for 10 million, 10 zillion, infinite number of times that I am distracted and find myself distracted, return to, either the object of meditation, like the breath, or, to, let's say, a more global awareness. Global meaning awareness of more than one thing, like awareness of everything that you can be aware of. Returning to awareness. And that's a different level of teaching, but there's the difference between ordinary awareness and pure, pristine, timeless awareness. That's a different dealio, but it's where I'm at. I don't teach it, but I practice it, and it comes out in everything I do and say. So the idea is to let go, let go, let go. And every time I find myself getting riled up, let go of everything, dear. Let go. Let go completely. Let go absolutely, as we say in AA. Let go absolutely. Then you're going to get caught up again, and then you're going to let go again. And you're going to keep doing that. Keep practicing letting go. Letting go, not clinging, not obsessing, not grinding, not pressing, not, dissecting. Not putting effort, mental effort, energetic effort, soul effort. Do you know what I want to put? The effort into the effortless. I want to put the effort into the efficacious, into the effulgent. Effort into the compassion, into the healing. Effort into love. Effort into boundless compassion. And the effort is really subtle. Just turn your heart to compassion, through the practices of loving kindness, for example. May you be happy. May you be free. May you be filled with joy. May you be free of suffering. May I be free of suffering. May I be happy. May I be free. These are the practices of the Bodhisattva. Let go. And there's so much we don't know. I've been around for a spell, and I've been under a spell, and I've fallen down the well, and have dwelled in hell. Can't you tell? At this moment, I've got nothing to sell but a story to tell about how to get well and pull yourself up out of hell. And that's my path. I share what I experience and what I go through. I stay sober. I go to yoga. I practice Dharma. I meditate. I write. I try to help others. That's my meaning. That's my purpose. That's my vision. That's my clarity. That's my hope. So, yeah, I'm doing a year to live and trying to heal that relationship and meet some new people up there. And I don't want to get badgered by anybody or, like ridiculed for it or lumped into a category. There's a lot of controversy, and I'm not in it. Nothing to do with any of that. I'm just practicing compassion and self-compassion and healing. What would it be like to live your life as if this were the last year? We're reading that book and journaling and talking about it once a month, meditating, and that's that. So I'm working on deadlines. I've got a lot of books, stuff. I've got a lot on my plate right now and trying to get it done. And, I'm an empath. That means I feel the feelings, I feel the experience as if it's happening to me. That is me. That is Judith Orloff, the Empath Survival Guide. Take a look at that book. She's a doctor and an empath. She has 25 doctors in her family. Anyways, the difference between compassion and empathy is that the compassion is, being moved by the suffering of another to try to alleviate that suffering, try to do something to help that being, And empathy is, it's a different part of the brain. It's a different circuitry. Everything's interdependent, interrelated in the brain, but what's going on in the brain is that there's two different circuits. One is empathy. I feel it too. And that can become distress and overwhelming. And oh fuck, I pick up the stress and the joy and everything. Walk into a room, I feel it. And also the desire to be of benefit. Just the pure natural, as Marshall Rosenberg called it, I think he called it just the natural desire to help. And part of the nonviolent communication. I'm also studying that, for the compassionate recovery work. So all of this stuff that I talk about in this series of, we're going to do 37 of them. We're going through this whole booklet, this little Chinese or Taiwanese booklet, The Corporate Body of the Buddha Educational Foundation, Taipei, Taiwan. Well, who knows, about that, but, whatever. They print this book and, I got this from a Lama who I asked for help and he handed it to me. The Lamas, they're pretty patient. They just look at you and go, knucklehead, we've been telling you for a long time. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche told me a long time ago, teach them about compassion, like he told me that a decade ago. And those words in that transmission are vibrating through me, and these practices of the Bodhisattva are, expanding and deepening and becoming part of my life, for all these years, but now manifesting in compassionate recovery. So the idea is to have a new paradigm, a universal, inclusive, trauma-informed approach to recovery that involves healing from attachments and addictions. You can go to compassionaterecoveryproject.com. We have a bunch of cool meditations that have been recorded by different healers. If you're a healer and you'd like to do a meditation, you can do one and send it to me. If you want a quick how-to on that, I'll give it to you. But these are 10-minute meditations or so. And you can use those to start a meeting. There's a meeting format up there under meeting formats on the website. This podcast is listed up there, the 12-Step Buddhist Podcast. And, the thing is that I'm aware of as I'm talking through and talking about the stuff that I share with you on this podcast is my real self. This is me, raw, and right now. This is what I practice. This is what's in my heart and soul. I'm a very, very long-term, very deep Buddhist. I've been doing this for as many years as I've been sober, and longer, 35 years really of this. So I realize that it's pretty deep and it might be outside the scope of some people. And I will write books that are more advanced and more for people who are super serious in the teaching. But what I'm understanding, and particularly from visiting other groups and stuff, is that, and as I put Compassionate Recovery together, and the deadline for the book is in the summer, and it'll be out in the fall, or possibly a little bit after that. But as I put it all together, it's really clear to me that it needs to be secular. It needs to be clear and simple and straightforward so that anybody can pick it up and read it and understand it and begin a healing process. So the meeting formats are there, and I'm hoping that people will start some meetings, even if it's just a few people. And I know a lot of people just want to show up. Nobody wants to have the responsibility, but really just, grab a meeting format, have someone come over your house or go to your meeting hall and just, set up a meditation meeting. The format's there, ABC. I'll help you do it if you need to have some help. But just get some meetings started so we can get some feedback on it, because the idea of this is, and what I'm trying to say really is that although in my podcast here I'm as deep as I'm going to ever get on, well, I can get deeper, but the meetings and the Compassionate Recovery Program are much more accessible and much simpler and clearer and much more practical, down to earth. The podcast is really for the people who want to hear it for whatever reason, want to, be soothed by it, hopefully learn some practices, hear someone share from their soul. This is not, when I go to AA, I was in an AA meeting the other night. I get agitated. I don't even want to share in AA because I can't speak like this. I've been doing this podcast for 10 years and, leading groups and sharing with people. And I don't have a filter about, it has to be within an AA